Welcome to Bridge the Gap, where our listeners are victors, not victims. Knowledge empowers you to make wise choices that lead to success, not failure. Together, we build up, not tear down our communities. We remember when parents, not government, guided their families, and when individuals chose what was best for their own lives. Now is the moment for parents to reclaim their families, to unite rather than divide. It's time to restore the values that once strengthened our nation and to secure a brighter, stronger future for the next generation. Let's get this underway and bridge the gap.
Thank you for joining us. This is Kevin McNamee, your host here on Bridge the Gap. For your questions to phone in, I'd like you to call 866-870-5752, 866-870-5752. We are also live streaming on Facebook. Go to CEO Act CA, Facebook live stream, CEO Act CA, and watch the show on Facebook. On today's show, we have a guest host in studio, one of my good friends who I've known for many years, Rocky Rhodes. Yes, that is his real name. We'll find out why his parents had such a wacky sense of humor to call him Rocky Rhodes. He is also the Simi Valley Council member, as well as a coffee consultant. Rocky, do you realize how happy you're going to make a lot of people here being a coffee consultant?
Coffee is the food of life.
I tell you, it's big in our household. We're going to discuss today, Rocky, Governor Newsome and Tony Thurmond, Superintendent of California Public Schools, and Alberto Carvalho, who is the Superintendent of LAUSD. They are being genuinely dishonest about the quality of education in the state, as well as Los Angeles Public Schools. We're going to get into that and how these two have a love fest at a press conference that occurred earlier this month, where they said things like historic gains in proficiency testing in reading and math. Love that word, historic gains. We'll look at that, at what they consider as historic gains. But before we get to that, we're coming up onto the 1 Minute News. In 2024, honors graduate at Hartford Public Schools in Connecticut is suing her former high school after discovering she cannot read even her own diploma. Alicia Ortiz, who received a scholarship to study public policy at the University of Connecticut, says she relied on speech-to-text apps to read and write her assignments. How did she graduate with honors and earn a college scholarship? The answer lies in the power and the pitfalls of artificial intelligence.
All right, Kevin, in 2024, California tied with Louisiana for the highest poverty rate in the nation, with nearly 7 million residents, about 18% of the population, living below the adjusted income threshold. Once again, California leads the nation for all the wrong reasons.
Go get them, California. On September 12th, California lawmakers sent a bill to Governor Gavin Newsom that would allow colleges and universities to give preferential consideration in admissions to students who are descendants of enslaved people.
The bill, co-sponsored by the California Faculty Association, CFA, and authored by Assemblymember Bryan, seeks to expand the educational opportunities for those with ancestral ties to slavery. The CFA argues that this measure offers a necessary option for California's higher education institutions, including the UC, CSU, independent, and private colleges, to thoughtfully consider a student's lineage as part of the admissions process. So much for merit-based admissions.
California has received $1 billion in federal funding to expand water storage as 40% of the state continues to face drought conditions. Congressman Kevin Kiley of California called on the White House to ensure these newly approved federal funds are used exclusively for water storage and conveyance projects, preventing the money from being redirected elsewhere. With Sacramento unable to get it done, federal government is stepping in to deliver for California.
Hey, somebody's delivering for California.
This has been the 1 Minute News. Rocky, welcome, my friend, to Bridge the Gap. You and I have known each other. I've seen your children grow up over the last 25 years or so, even maybe longer than that. You know, you do some good work there in Simi Valley as a city council member. That's a well-run city, great services. How did you, as a coffee consultant get into politics?
And as a politician, I'm going to answer that question after I say to you, it's a deep, deep friendship that would get me to be here with you co-hosting on Game 7 of the World Series. The Dodgers just hit a home run.
Oh,
and
yes!
They're up in the 11th inning, 5-4. Just wanted to point that out.
How many outs right now in the ninth? What inning? 11th inning, you said?
They just stepped out, so now we're going to the bottom of the 11th.
Bottom of the 11th, 5-4. Dodgers are up. We will keep this monitored through the whole
Go Blue.
show today.
I'm when it looks like I'm not paying attention to you, it's because I'm not. I'm watching the game on my phone.
Coming up shortly, we will have Leslie Russell of Equip 210. She talks about how her program, Equip 210, allows parents, teachers to set up their own school, and it's a one that is spreading throughout the world. She has just come back from South Korea as well as the other points around the world, educating people on how to set up a school. My gosh, what an opportunity here.
I'm looking forward to talking to her about South Korea, especially because I got to do work there and see their education system.
What'd you think of it?
You know what? It's they focus and prioritize education. It can be to the detriment of the students sometime because they overemphasize it so much, the critical achievement on certificates and that sort of thing. But everyone's involved in it. The parents, the teachers, everyone's involved in that education process. Given
my education background as a professor at the community college, but also my father, who was a professor at UCLA, often spoke of the Asian way of teaching often was rote memory.
Correct.
And they stifled creative thinking of the material. What are they doing in South Korea? Are they getting back to creative thinking, or is it all rote memory and you got the facts memorized?
I want to believe that I had an impact in this.
You sure did, I'm sure. Coffee and all.
I was teaching a coffee class, and I asked a question of the class, and the students were just dead silent. They wouldn't answer the question. And so I stood there with my hands clasped in front of me and waited for a minute and a half of dead silence until someone in the back of the room raised their hand, and I applauded them, and all of a sudden it became known that if you're going to be in Rocky's class, you're going to have to participate. You're going to have to use your critical thinking and be a part of finding the solutions in this class.
Isn't it great how you encourage people to participate, and then they step up and they do?
And then they do.
When I teach, and again, I've been teaching also continuing education classes throughout the country in chiropractic, acupuncture, and when I have Asian students in the audience, I have to be careful as to what their level of English understanding is, where I will quiz every 15 minutes in my class, point to them and say, okay, this is the material we just covered. Let me give you a couple quiz questions, and I'll point to one of them, and they're smiling and nodding their head.
Mm-hmm.
I give them the question. They continue to smile and nod their head, and I'm realizing you have no idea what I am asking. So I have to tactfully kind of pivot over to another student and then come back during the break and get them on the side and talk with them about what are you understanding, what aren't you. So it's a different way of learning, but they are super, super diligent students.
Yep, 100%.
Now, if you're joining us right now, you're listening to Bridge the Gap here on AM 870 The Answer. We're right now talking with my co-host, Rocky Rhodes. Rocky is, again, coffee consultant extraordinaire, but also city council member in Simi Valley. And we're going to get back to the show here. What I'd like to do is listen to, well, actually, let me set up this segment here. October 9th, a few weeks ago, State of California released what's called the CASP standardized test results for the state public school students. What this does is test them on their reading, math, and science. And they release that to the public every year. And as I listened to the governor, as well as the superintendent of LAUSD, talk about the results of their latest testing for reading and math in public school, I'd like for you to listen to what they had to say. Clip 1. Could you play that for me, Ryan?
But most importantly, to our governor, my friend Gavin Newsome, I say thank you on behalf of 540,000 students who learn and thrive every single day in Los Angeles Unified. The second point I'd like to make is a little bit about Los Angeles Unified. And let me begin by apologizing to the entire state of California and the nation for Los Angeles Unified is having a very special moment in history, one without precedent. Let me just put it to you like this. Based on state assessments, this year, across all disciplines tested, that is reading, mathematics, and science, across all grade levels tested from 3rd through 11th grade, and across all subgroups of students, that is white, black, Latino, English language learners, students with disabilities, foster care kids, kids experiencing homelessness, everybody moved up. Not just by a little bit, but in a very statistically compelling way.
Rocky, when you hear that, what do you think has happened to our scores in California?
Oh, my God. They must be off the charts. Statistically compelling. What I can't wait to hear what that means.
You know, I heard that and I'm going, oh my God, we've made huge improvements here in our testing scores. Let's go to clip 2. Ryan, could you play clip 2 for us?
From 2011 to 2022, waiting for the newest numbers, there was no other system of education in the United States of America that saw faster improvement in reading for 8th graders than the state of California. Again, these investments are starting to produce real results. But yes, good enough never is. And no, we're not satisfied with where we are. But I will say 1.8% improvement in ELA this year, 1.8% improvement in math this year, and 2% improvement in science. It's a good start.
Now, that was Governor Gavin Newsom touting the praises of increasing the learning among our public school students, 1% in reading and 1.8% in math. And I'd like to do the following. We're going to go to a break here, then come back, Rocky, and we're going to talk about this. And we're welcome our listeners to make a phone call if you have questions about education in public schools here, and 1% in reading, 1.8% in math, and 2% in science, what your thoughts are. Give us a call at 866-870-5752, 866-870-5752. We have April on the line who's taking your calls. She's waving from the booth right now. April is going to take your and put you in the queue there to have your question for us, and we'd like to hear your thoughts about public education here in California. You're listening to Bridge the Gap here on AM 870 The Answer. We will be back in a few moments.
Daniel, I can't believe this. My son's test scores came in. He's reading at a 2nd grade level, but he's in 7th grade. Public school has got to go. It just isn't working for him.
I know how frustrating that is. That's why I'm putting the Children's Educational Opportunity Act on the 2026 ballot.
The Children's Educational Opportunity Act?
It gives every student in California $17,000 so you can choose the school your son attends, not politicians. It uses our tax dollars they already collect. It's not a loan, it's tax-free, and any leftover funds can go to a college fund.
That sounds great. How do I make that happen?
Well, just go to educationopportunity.org. Print, sign, and mail the initiative. If we get 1 million voters to do this, it goes on the ballot. Together, we can give every child in California the education they deserve.
Educationopportunity.org. Print, sign, mail. That's easy.
Yep, that's educationopportunity.org. Just print, sign, and mail.
If you're joining us, this is Bridge the Gap here on AM 870 The Answer. You're talking with Kevin McNamee, your host, and my co-host today, which I'm very proud to have in studio with me, Rocky Rhodes, City Council member in Simi Valley, as well as a coffee consultant. By the way, what are some of the funnest stories you had as a coffee consultant?
Well, one is I was in a village in Indonesia, and the queen apologized that she couldn't serve us the coffee from the village, and I asked why, and she said the person that we sell our cherries to only our coffee was so bad they can only use it to sell it to the army to make gunpowder. out of the coffee.
Gunpowder.
Yes.
I didn't know you could make gunpowder out of coffee. Is this new chemistry for me?
I checked with my translator, and he said, nope, you're right. You can't do it. And we had to tell the Queen, and we're pretty sure there's one less trader of coffee in that part of Indonesia.
Strung up on some tree in a far distant jungle somewhere. Yeah. Oh, my gosh. They've been telling them that we didn't get enough money, yet you said this was good coffee?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, my gosh. Wow. That must have been something. So let's come back to, again, I'm hearing terms that were shared by our LAUSD superintendent, Alberto Carvalho, and Governor Gavin Newsom. What are your thoughts?
I have to interrupt.
Yes, sir.
The LA Dodgers have just won the World.
Yes! Yes! Woohoo! Hold on. Excellent. I am happy. Let's go big time.
Nice.
Excellent. Are we happy? Are we happy?
This is a good day.
Excellent.
This is a good day.
Talking about coffee and the Dodgers win. Woohoo!
When they said are you going to get tired of winning? I'm not. I'm not tired of winning. This is good.
But again, as I listen to the governor talk about the recent testing scores, as well as Alberto Carvalho, superintendent of LAUSD, talk about the gains of, let me see, 1% in reading, 1.8% in math, and 2%, and they used in science. And this is without precedent. All grades moved up. Faster improvement. Our investment is paying off. Rocky, what are your thoughts on this?
In economics,
I'm getting very upset over this terminology.
In economics, they have this expression: if you drop a cat from high enough, you'll get a dead cat bounce. The scores were so low. How could they possibly have gone any lower? Of course, they're going to go up.
Well, I can tell you from my research in medical school when I was at UCLA School of Medicine, working in the biological chemistry department. This is not statistically significant, and yet they try to say it is statistically significant. This is a blip.
You've got to hold on to the things that are like in your favor, and if that's it, well, oh my gosh.
Well, let me share a thought with you about education here in California. Then we'll go to a call right now. We have Nar from Los Angeles. You're up, and then we'll go to Kathy in LA shortly thereafter. So hang in there for just a moment. I want to submit to you, Rocky, that we have, for example, the testing scores in California 2 years ago. 44% of our 11th graders, those that are going to be graduating, cannot read and can't read proficiently.
That's insane.
72% of our 11th graders 2 years ago could not do math, basic math. Now what we're seeing is that there's been this tremendous improvement where instead of 44% can't read of our 11th graders, now it's 43% can't read. Woohoo!
Wow. Wow.
Hold on. Let's do it.
Yeah.
There you go. And then let's look at math. They went from 72% can't do basic math, and 70% now can't do basic math today.
That's called political math. They're doing political math. The only time that you could actually celebrate that type of improvement is if you're doing political math.
I can tell you what has happened about 10 months ago. I was talking to a first grade public school teacher, shared with me this observation. She says, Kevin, they've had all my resources taken from me in my first grade class to move them to the upper grades to help them get ready for the standardized testing. I said to her, TK, kindergarten, first, second, is the biggest investment you should make teaching children how to read, because if you have children learning how to read, they stay out of gangs, they don't wind up in prison. In fact, 60% of the federal prison inmates can't read, and yet they're taking them out of your classroom and moving them to upper grades. I said, I think they're worried about the Children's Educational Opportunity Act, the initiative for 2026, so they can improve the grades, improve the test scores, and say we don't need this initiative because we got a 1%, 2% increase.
Unprecedented.
Oh, my God. So I really think that may be the motivation here. Another little tidbit of information. Los Angeles Times last year did a study of LAUSD. Among the 11th graders, 73% earned A, Bs, and Cs, while only 19% tested at grade level. And Among the sixth graders, 85% A, Bs, and Cs, while only 40% met grade level benchmarks. What are your thoughts?
Well, when the Dodgers can hit 300 and that's an A grade, maybe they're grading on a baseball curve.
Big curve, my friend, yeah. Big curve. So let's go to a call here. I'd like to go to Nar in Los Angeles. Nar, we'd like to hear your thoughts. Go ahead, Nar. You're on the radio with Rocky and Kevin. Go ahead.
Hey, Kevin, it's Nar. Hope you're well. Great talk, you guys. Real quick, first of all, they're just inflating these numbers by not, taking into consideration anything under 50%, and that's the only reason why it went up, not because they actually improved. Second of all, we don't give a poop anymore because it's already done. We're basing our decision for the CEO Act to pass as an initiative for the people based off of previous and current scores. They can't improve fast enough, all right? So it's already done. They already had their chance. 70 years, it's a wash for the public. It's good for them because they get to, take the money from us and the people and put it in their pockets and not show us anything for it. So we want to take that control back immediately. And I, as a parent, since 2022, I took them out for way less reasons, the mask mandates. And now I have even more of a reason to support this initiative. We have a school of 60 kids. We are an example of what micro school can be for students and parents and families. And we will take that money gladly and implement it beautifully in our communities, not like how the Department of Ed and the Teachers Mafia Union has been doing.
Nora, I'd like to say thank you very much for cleaning up the word poop. I appreciate that because we'd have to censor you if that went out, the other word went out, but thank you. Nar, Let me explain for the listeners who we haven't talked about this initiative for 2026. Let me give a moment so they can come up to speed. The initiative we're good. The Children's Educational Opportunity Act is an initiative targeted for 2026. What it allows is an amendment to the California Constitution, giving parents who are not happy with the California public school system for their children. It may not be a good fit. If it's a good fit for your kid, keep the kids in the public school. But if not, the children deserve other options like private school, faith-based school, or homeschool. So this initiative amends the California Constitution, allows parents to set up an education savings account at the state level, specific for that child. Now what happens is that public school money for that child follows the child into that education savings account of $17,000 per year from TK all the way through to 12th grade. So the parent never touches the money, but they have the opportunity to find the best education fit, whether it be private school, homeschool, faith-based school. So the parent enrolls the child, the school contacts the state ESA trust board to release whatever funds for the child being enrolled for tuition. Any unused funds stay in that account, rolls over, earns interest year after year for future education expenses. What ultimately happens at the end of 12th grade, any unused funds in that education savings account specifically for that child winds up being able to be used for trade tech, community college, university, postgrad for the remainder of the child's life. And after 18 can transfer some or all to a family member's education savings account, just like the wealthy enjoy a 529 plan for education, where they can move that money between their children, while the low-income, moderate-income families don't have that opportunity. Now they do. You go a long way with this initiative, Children's Educational Opportunity Act, to reduce or eliminate student loan debt, open up education opportunities for all children, including low and moderate-income families, so that way they're on the same footing. And I submit to you, and we can talk about this after the break, that education disparity in the United States and California is the Civil Rights Act of our time. So, Nara, I appreciate your calling in, and I'm glad that you made the move, but this definitely, from what I'm hearing, will be a better way to get your kids into the education you want. Rocky, any thoughts before we go to break?
Yeah, Nar, thank you for talking about the timing of this. They've had their chance. When I was listening to the press conference, they talked about how long the study has been going on. That's an entire lost generation. Lost, and you can't get that back. So it's time. they've had their chance.
If you're joining us, you're listening to Bridge the Gap here on AM 870 The Answer. You're talking with Rocky Rhodes and Kevin McNamee. We're going to go to a break. We will be back in a few moments to continue this discussion on education in California. If you want to join us, call 866-870-5752. We're live streaming on Facebook at CEO Act CA. Give us a call with your questions about what has been the challenge with public school? Why have you left the public school? Do you want to leave the public school, and why? We'll be right back after the break. Welcome back. This is Kevin McNamee, your host of Bridge the Gap here on AM 870 The Answer. If you're just tuning in, we're discussing the Children's Educational Opportunity Act, an initiative for 2026 that puts parents in charge of where their child goes to school, not politicians or bureaucrats. We're speaking with Rocky Rhodes, City Council member of Thousand Oaks and coffee consultant extraordinaire. Rocky, give us the good news that you told us a few minutes ago.
The Dodgers have won the World Series. And anybody watching live stream on Facebook, I want you to believe this is not champagne in my coffee cup, that it's actually coffee. I want you to believe that.
We have April and Lisa who are screening calls, dancing in this control room there. Go get them, you guys. I like this. So as we left the show, I wanted to say that I was listening to, while you were out getting coffee, I was listening to the commercials. They talked about foster children. Do you know this initiative will help foster children? Because in most states, as well as California, as soon as that foster child becomes 18, they no longer have funding. They were trying to change that to 25, 26, which I don't think it's gone through. So what happens is that the foster child is out of the house. Do you know the fastest growing population in homelessness is the foster children? Well, let me share a thought with you. If this is done right with the Children's Educational Opportunity Act, they could easily, with a quality education and private school, faith-based school, or homeschool, have over $130,000 sitting there for trade tech, community college, university, post-grad, and they can use some of that funding for housing. Yep. So they can move out, enter into an apartment near the college, go to school, paid for by the Children's Educational Opportunity Act. What do you think of that?
Did you just solve homelessness and our housing problem?
What a concept.
Interesting.
What a concept. Now, you had some questions during the break. Did you bring those up?
So a lot of people, when I'm explaining the CEO Act to people, they ask me about, well, like, how can we afford that right now? How can we're going to raise new taxes? Why are you going to do this?
Excellent question. And it's commonly a question that I get when I go out and speak in public. One is that 35 years ago, the people of California wanted to invest in education and public school in California. They passed something called Proposition 98. Prop 98 guarantees 39% of the state's revenue, that's from sales tax, property tax, income tax, goes to kindergarten through 12th grade education. That is $23,000 per kid in our California public schools. What this initiative does is that without raising taxes and with tax-free money, they shift those dollars from the public school over into the child's education savings account, so that way we're able to provide a quality education that's a good fit decided by the parent. And you can't get any more local in deciding education than the parent.
And let me just make sure that I heard that right, that that Prop 98 money is the same money that's automatically sent to the public schools, now is going to be put in the savings account so that the parents and the students can decide what's best for themselves.
You're a good student and a good listener. That is absolutely correct. Okay, and you brought up something else. What was the other item? I forgot.
That's a great question.
I think it was something about, are you mandated if you participate to teach objectionable material?
100%. That the second most asked question of me is, hey, I want to send my kid to a faith-based school.
That's a great question. We have protective language in the initiative that says if you want to go to a faith-based school and the faith-based school wants to participate in this, you can still keep teaching faith. In fact, you can use some of the money to buy faith-based material and curriculum. So those private schools, faith-based schools, they're not going to be mandated by the government to teach what they want. In fact, if there's anything objectionable that is being forced upon the public schools, the parent or the school under the CEO Act can reject and not teach objectionable material by the parent or the school. Isn't that great?
That's power in the educators.
And it winds up putting the ability for the parents to say, no, we disagree with what you're forcing us to teach. And again, without raising taxes, tax-free money puts the parents in charge, not politicians or bureaucrats.
What if I like my public school and I just want to send my kid there?
Stay there. Stay there. We're not requiring anybody jump into the CEO Act. The Children's Educational Opportunity Act is optional to get in. And if you're not happy, you can opt out. That's okay. That's just the way it is. It gives you opportunity, gives you choices.
I know we have a caller, but I have one last question, and because it's not a very often asked question, but I think it's an important one. I was just talking to a mom who says, I homeschool. And I said, do you homeschool through an accredited school? And she said, yes. And then I said, I think you're going to like the CEO Act. Could you explain how homeschoolers can use this?
Great question. Homeschoolers are part of the Children's Educational Opportunity Act. They should also share in our tax dollars that go towards education, because California voters know that education is an invitation to be more. So CEO Act includes PSAs called private school affidavit, PSPs called private school satellite programs, and the credential teacher model. All three are covered. And the way this works is that the parent can't pay themselves to teach their child. But as one parent called up and asked the question of me, says, can I get paid to teach my child at homeschooling? I said, we have language in there that says you can't get paid from your child's ESA to stay home and get taught. She says, can I hire tutors? I said, absolutely. Can I hire the tutor around the corner? Absolutely. They just have to get qualified through a private school, faith-based school, or a charter school to be approved as a tutor, that they have the credentials or the ability to do so. And what she was doing is laying down the breadcrumbs of the following. 2 or more families come together as a homeschool pod. Mm-hmm. Parents who are home teaching get approved as a tutor, and they can build the other kids' ESAs for tutoring, and the other mom can build that other kid's ESA for tutoring. Now you make it affordable to stay home, homeschool, but you have a check and balance where the parents are keeping each other in line. Now, let's expand this. Parent called me and says, we're in Palmdale, Lancaster. We have a church on 5 acres. We have a very large building in the back. We'd like to make a school, but the majority of our parents are homeschooling because they do not want to do vaccination. Well, I said to her, number one, we have protective language in there that if a homeschool family does not want to vaccinate, they don't have to. Now, that's different than Sacramento, because at any time, Sacramento can make that a requirement. Mm-hmm. Second, I said to her, what you can do is set up a homeschool pod where multiple families come together in that large building in the back of the acreage. Instead of calling it a school, you call it a homeschool pod. Instead of hiring teachers, you hire tutors. And you pay the tutors out of all the children's ESA that they're not related to. Oh, she was delighted. Mm-hmm. Here we're making education an opportunity for different models. I thought that was a great idea on her part.
And the fact that it is going to have to be run through an accredited school or extension satellite, that's so important because the naysayers will be, oh my God, you're just going to be throwing money away at people who are unqualified to teach. Mm-hmm.
Well, what happens is that the PSPs, private school satellite programs, and the credential teacher models have to align with a private school, a faith-based school, or charter school. They don't necessarily have to be accredited, but they are recognized by the state of California. So accreditation for the private school, faith-based school, and homeschool is not really a criteria.
Right.
But the PSAs was a real challenge because we wanted to make sure the money is going to the student and not to family enrichment. So what we did was that part of the ESA Trust Board's mandate is to set up the function as a school where they will screen the money going through to make sure it goes to the tutors, the books, and so forth. Which reminds me, I forgot to mention what this is covered. The Children's Educational Opportunity Act covers tuition, school fees, online classes, tutors, special needs, transportation to and from school and school activity, faith-based material and curriculum. And I'm sure I'm missing a few in there, but the list is long. But if it's not on that list, you can ask the ESA Trust Board to have that approved. So that way, education is covered.
Do you think the trust board will become overwhelmed?
I don't think so. If you use technology, I think they'll be able to do it quite easily. If we're able in Los Angeles County, able to handle all those county employees with their health care through, for example, a debit card that goes to a doctor, I think we can do this quite efficiently using technology.
You and I don't think have ever talked about this, but it has occurred to me that when you introduce all these different levels of education that are now funded through the savings accounts, do you think that the cost of education will come down?
Absolutely, because when you introduce on January 2nd, 2027, when this goes into effect after being passed November of 26, schools can open up immediately. Those schools that have been faith-based or private schools that have closed down due to declining enrollment can open immediately because that money is now available and those students can enroll immediately. Second, you can also get micro schools opening up where a lot of LAUSD teachers who have left teaching public school because they are tired of being told what to teach and how to teach and disagreeing with what's happening.
Right.
Is that they can open a micro school out of their home, their garage, wherever. Also, they can go into a warehouse. They can go into an office building that's vacant. We got a lot of vacant buildings around here. They can open their own school because the greatest barrier to opening a school, finances. This now opens up the finances for the parent to decide where to go. And when a school is successful, other students come. So that said, let's go real quick to LA Precinct Activators. LA Precinct Activators from Los Angeles. Go ahead. You're on the line.
Hi, Dr. Kevin, Louise from California Precinct Activators. I just want to say this is going to be such an amazing opportunity for California's children to shine on the world stage educationally. We've lost, I think, 20 years, and I wanted to know what do you recommend is the fastest and quickest way to get this done?
Excellent question. You and I have not been a good bestower of the information. We have launched Signature Gathering right as of last Wednesday, a week ago. Signature Gathering is in an initiative process. This is not a legislative bill. This is the people's law brought forward by the people of California, just like Prop 13 in 1978. We need to collect 1.2 million signatures to get it qualified for the November of 2026 ballot. I need everyone out there listening to go to educationopportunity.org, educationopportunity.org. Click on the link that says click to sign the initiative. You'll be taken to a homepage, enter your name, email, phone number, click. You'll be then brought to the initiative that you can download, sign the petition, look at the other paperwork, print out as many as you need, and have your neighbor, your family, your friends, even your enemies sign it, because we need to get 1.2 million signatures to qualify it for the 2026 ballot. Educationopportunity.org. Excellent question. I appreciate your doing that. Rocky, anything you want to add to that?
If you're activists, and you can do that, we'd love to have you out at street fairs, out at neighborhood block parties with these signature ballots or petitions. Thank you. Lost the word. And have you out there and spreading the word. Everyone in your group gets 25 signatures. We're well on our way.
Now, to your point, Rocky, is that the pastors who I've spoken to who object to the moral guidance, the standards, the values that are being bestowed upon our students of California, pastors aren't happy with it. When I speak to the pastors, they're realizing, oh my God, we can actually open out of our church sanctuary a homeschool that was successful in the 1800s, where we had the highest literacy rate here in the United States, because they did the one-room schoolhouse, but they made certain all the kids knew how to read, write, do math, history, civics, and so forth. This is an opportunity for those pastors to get back on track. So set up a table after services, sign people up, but give them other extra copies to take home, sign it, tell them they have to each bring back 100 signatures, so that way we can get this on the ballot and everyone knows at least 250 other people. Get 100 to sign. Pastors, get on board with this if you want to change the direction of California, our children's morals, values, and standards. Time that we allow us to do it as parents and not politicians or bureaucrats. Luis, thank you for the call. We have to move on. And coming up after the break, actually, we've got, oh my God, Sonia Shaw. Sonia is the candidate for California Superintendent of Public Schools. Sonia, thank you for calling in. This is a surprise. We'll get to you right after the break. If you're joining us, this is Bridge the Gap here on AM 870 The Answer. We'll be back right after the break.
Daniel, I can't believe this. My son's test scores came in. He's reading at a second grade level, but he's in 7th grade. Public school has got to go. It just isn't working for him.
I know how frustrating that is. That's why I'm putting the Children's Educational Opportunity Act on the 2026 ballot.
The Children's Educational Opportunity Act?
It gives every student in California $17,000 so you can choose the school your son attends, not politicians. It uses our tax dollars they already collect. It's not a loan, it's tax-free, and any leftover funds can go to a college fund.
That sounds great. How do I make that happen?
Well, just go to educationopportunity.org. Print, sign, and mail the initiative. If we get 1 million voters to do this, it goes on the ballot. Together, we can give every child in California the education they deserve.
Educationopportunity.org. Print, sign, mail. That's easy.
Yep, that's educationopportunity.org. Just print, sign, and mail.
Welcome back. This is Kevin McNamee of the Bridge the Gap radio show here on AM 870 The Answer. We have, as a special guest, and delighted that she took time to give us a call, Sonia Shaw of Chino Valley Unified School District. Now, for those of you who recognize that name, she is the one who has taken Chino Valley Unified School District and have increased the student scores, the learning, by doing some innovative things. Sonia, I want to say thank you for calling into the show. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing there at Chino Valley Unified School District that has done such revolutionary things in education and how you can translate that into California.
No, absolutely. And thanks for having me on. I love what you guys are doing, and I love the show, and I love that you are, providing information so parents have a way out. Because, yes, in Chino, we are doing it right. But unfortunately, the battle is every single day. Obviously, against special.
Did we lose you?
The rest of the bureaucrats.
You're back. Yeah. Go ahead and repeat that last line. Go ahead. You faded out.
Yeah, it's just been a battle. Every day we're putting out fires, fighting against the bureaucrats, Newsome, and the rest of the unions when they try to push things that do not belong in the classroom. Look, we're trying to clear that out, and we continue to fight those battles. It sucks because they're, using lawfare to sue us consistently, just on common sense policies. We really want to focus back on reading, writing, and math. That's what we have been trying to let the experts do. We're bringing in tons of PLC, professional learning centers, but doing it the right way, not just the way that, they've been pushing for so long in other districts. And our test scores are increasing. Look, we're saying no ideologies in the classroom. Give the teachers the tools to be able to have our students have the success. It is unacceptable that the education, I call it business in California, is, you guys know, on average $130 billion a year, and only 47% of our kids can read, write, and do math.
We talk about $127 billion, $130 billion. That is a mind-boggling number because that's more money than most countries have to operate around the world.
Yeah, 40% of our budget in California goes to education. And to do what?
And what exactly do we get for it? Because if you look at since 1979 with the Department of Education, they have spent $3 trillion on education in the United States, and yet our scores have not improved. In fact, they've gotten worse according to the nation's report card that just came out.
Well, look what they're doing. I mean, I did a public request information, on the act on getting some documents on this prison training. This is what they're training. They're making a requirement to train teachers to push an ideology into the classroom. And I think you and I have spoke about this before. It's absolutely mind-boggling that we're spending millions of dollars and money of our, taxpayer dollars to go towards pushing this LGBTQ plus into the classroom, how to teach it and push it into STEM, PE, history. You can't even make this stuff up. I have documents showing the payout to the CTA, to all these special interest groups, including the Trevor's Project. You're talking about, Kevin, I'm telling you right now, I have documents from the California Department of Ed. These are their documents showing us that they paid people to go to Pride festivals. They paid per diem. They paid, their car. They paid hotels. Like, what in the world are we doing? Kids cannot read, write, and do math.
So,
and this
Sonia
is what
Shaw,
we're spending our money on?
So, Sonia Shaw, here's what I'm looking at. You as a candidate running for California Superintendent of Schools, you have shown progress, real progress, not what the governor is talking about, 1%, 2% improvement. You've shown substantial by focusing back on the basics, reading, writing, and arithmetic.
Yep.
And I would love to have you take that to the state of California and reform it. Rocky, what are your thoughts?
Well, I was kind of laughing because we talked about the governor's overwhelming and unprecedented numbers. I think if you took Chino's success and put it into the numbers, it probably is the entire increase in the state's scores.
So this is a heavy burden on Sonia Shaw and the Chino Valley Unified School District because they are the ones who elevated all the scores throughout the state. Is that what you're saying?
That's what I'm saying.
So
I have to give credit. There's a couple handful of us compared to the thousands of school districts. There's only a couple handful that are really doing the good work, and I'm grateful for those people who are doing the great work. But yes, it's the ones that are trying to focus on the basics and not all this other junk that doesn't belong in the classroom. Look, where have we gone wrong? I mean, why are boys allowed to be girls and girls are allowed to be boys, and you're allowing them in the restrooms and you're teaching it in curriculum, and then you expect our kids to learn how to read, write, and do math? I mean, I spent time in a classroom, and the chaos that these bureaucrats have created in the classroom is insane. My heart is breaking for the good teachers because you can have students literally with the worst behavior, and California law allows them because, of XYZ to stay in that classroom while disrupting everybody else's, learning day.
Sonia, you have gotten back.
It's so hard to even discipline.
Sonia, you've gotten back to basics of reading, writing, arithmetic, the ability to understand history and civics, and you're seeing the results in your test score. I'd love to see that translate to the rest of California. Now, voters, listeners, Sonia Shaw, candidate for California Superintendent of Public Schools. She's running for office. She needs your help. How can people get involved with going out and campaigning for you, donations? Give us a place for voters to go to.
Yes, go to my website, obviously www.shaw.com. That's shaw4ca.com. Please, we need all hands on deck. Look, you even said it, since 1970s, we have not seen an increase. We have seen failing results continue. Our kids are on a rapid decline, right? We need to change that. We have the winning ticket here. We know what we're doing. We need to get up there in Sacramento and stop the insanity. I need all hands on deck. Look, they pour millions of dollars into ensuring that they have this seat. It's time us, the people, take back that seat and let the experts do the work that our kids desperately need. Please donate, share my website, go to my Instagram as well. I would love for everybody to follow. I'm exposing every single day what the insanity that we're dealing with and facing. You could go to Sonia Shaw 2026 on Instagram and the real Sonia Shaw on X. Please go follow because we are showing everybody why it's so important to be involved.
Sonia, thank you for calling in. We look forward to your election next year and revolutionizing education in California to get back to basics. Thank you for calling in. A big applause for you on the way out.
Absolutely.
Now, Rocky,
awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Everybody in the studio is going crazy.
They are, boy. Look at them jumping up and down.
Oh, my gosh.
It could have been for the Dodgers, but...
That's excellent. Rocky, let me ask you just an observation here and a question. Is that Sonia Shaw brings up the basics that we've gotten away from. And my thought is, you know what? The answer is very simple, to the point where the governor at that press conference October 9th talked about the investment in the science of education and that we're going to get back to phonics. Now, just a second. Phonics has been around for over 100 years. We shifted to whole word when some researchers in education looked at expert readers.
Science.
And they were able to look at a word and know how to pronounce it because they've seen it so many times. Yet, the way in which you teach children how to read is through phonics by giving them the scaffolding, the building blocks to get to identifying that word, and you already have it memorized. And I compare it to a child, that's an infant, and looking at an Olympic sprinter and saying to that child, we want you to be an Olympic sprinter, get up and start running like an Olympic sprinter. Well, wait a minute, hold on. They've got to crawl, they've got to stand, take a few steps, learn how to run a little bit faster, then go into training. That's phonics.
So what you're saying is politician science is basically the same as politician math.
But why did it take so long to come back to phonics? And they're so excited about it. Oh, my God, this is a new discovery. We're into science. You know what? This has been around for 100 years.
When you want to pad the score right before your exit. Yeah.
Now, I need you all to do the following. We need to get 1.2 million signatures on the ballot. To get on the ballot, go to educationopportunity.org, educationopportunity.org. Please click, sign the initiative, print it out, have all your friends, family, go to your churches, have them sign it, go to the private schools, faith-based schools, talk to the parents there because I'm sure they would like to keep $17,000 in their pocket as compared to paying out tuition every year for each kid they've got in that private school and faith-based school. It's our tax dollars. It's not the government's. It's about time we take back education, and you can't get more local than the mother and father in the home, which the United States Supreme Court has said they are the primary educator of that child. Well, if you're joining us, this is Bridge the Gap here on AM 870 The Answer. We will be back right after the break. Oh, we're at the end of show here. I've just been told by the engineer we're done. So this has been Bridge the Gap here, where listeners are victors, not victims. We empower our listeners to make wise choices that lead to success, not failure. On the show, we build up, not tear down. Until next time, I'm your humble host, Kevin McNamee, and I want to say thank you to Rocky Rhodes for co-hosting. Boy, that hour went back fast.
It was fast.
Appreciate your being here, and if I'd like to have you back for future. Can I twist your arm?
I would love to.
I have 700,000 listeners listening to that right now, so I'm going to hold you to it. Next time, bring the coffee, okay?
You got it.
Excellent. Till next time, everyone, be good.